Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a new episode of Halal Menu Please. My name is Zen Mohammed and today I'm joined by someone who is literally the definition of a success story. Someone who started off in her home and is now a vendor in one of the most prime food halls in all of Houston. Please welcome Maham Kureshi and her husband Ali from Shakkar. Assalamu alaikum to you both.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for
Walaikum
having
assalam.
us. That literally made me want to cry. Thank you.
How are you guys today?
We're doing good. How
What about you, Ali?
Doing all right. Just came straight from work.
So, Maham, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name's Maham Kureshi. I am from Pakistan, Lahore. I moved here in 2017. Did I always know if I wanted to open up a bakery? Probably not. But here I am in Houston with my own bakery. It's something.
Definitely. So, what made you want to open up a bakery?
Honestly, I just have a massive sweet tooth. And when I was a kid, like my mom, like all Desi moms, like they don't make a lot of desserts.
Right.
So she would make amazing food, but not desserts. And I was like, all right, I need brownies and I need cupcakes and I need cakes. So I started making it myself. And then a part of it was like competition because my brother one day was like, oh, I want to be a chef. And my dad was like, all right, I'll send you abroad to go like culinary school. And then I was like, what? I want to be a chef. So it started off as like competing with him. And then I realized I really enjoyed it. And then it became my passion. And now he's an engineer and I am a chef. So
Life really takes you places, doesn't it?
it really does.
So, did you always prefer like Western sweets like chocolate and brownies over, desi mithai like jalebi, gulab jamun, and all?
Yes, 100%. I don't know why. I think it's like more, to me, some desserts are more balanced. I feel like Desi desserts still need to go that extra mile. I do want to go into Desi desserts, but I want to do it with like more of a balance. It's just too sweet or too rich for me right now, but I just haven't gone down that route yet. So,
Interesting. So, what was the first sort of pastry you made?
cupcakes.
Cupcakes?
Yeah, I started making cupcakes at school, bake sale. I was in O levels at that point, which is I guess the high school system
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah.
And then our seniors were graduating, and our principal was like, "Hey, could you make like 500 cupcakes?" And I was like, "Yes." And then I went home. I told my dad, "We need to make 500 cupcakes." And my dad's like, "You don't have anything to make 500 cupcakes." And then we all got together and like we made 500 cupcakes. So
And what type of cupcakes did you make?
chocolate.
Ah,
Yep.
just like me, I'm a huge chocolate fanatic, and I never really liked desi sweets since growing up. And people would tell me like, "How are you Indian and not like gulab jamun or jalebi?" Did you get that often?
Yes, so much. Even now, like everyone's like, "Oh, have mithai," and I'm like, I don't honestly not my dessert. Like nothing against it, it's just not my dessert. I've always gone out with like more cakes and like chocolate. For some reason, in Pakistan, chocolate is really big. Like we love chocolate desserts there.
Mm.
So even now, like at Shakkar, I'm always pushing for like something really chocolatey. I'm like, try this. This is so good.
What about you, Ali?
When it comes to Desi desserts, I am very much rice pudding, kheer,
Mm-hmm.
100%. But I think it's probably because it's such a balanced dessert. It's not too super sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really not that big of a sweet tooth until I got married. So
Interesting.
Yeah, he would always be like, I don't like desserts, right? And now he's at night, he'll be like, hey, is there anything sweet at home?
So you graduate high school. Did you go into culinary school in Pakistan or did
I
you?
did. I went to
Oh.
SCAFA in Pakistan, which is affiliated to Dubai, like their school there.
Uh-huh.
So I did a culinary course and a pastry course there. And then as soon after we got married and I moved here, and then I went to CIA in San Antonio.
Oh, nice.
So I went to do my associates in pastry arts. I did not do my last semester because of COVID, and we moved to Houston, and then I started working in the industry, so I never got the chance to go back. But yeah, I did. If I wanted to do it, I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to get like the backing for it,
Yeah.
which I feel like is the right route to go. There's two routes in the industry, right? Like either you learn your way up, or you go to school and you kind of like learn your techniques. For me, I wanted to learn the science behind it too.
So in culinary school, is the savory and the sweet separate, or do you do it all together?
Yes, it's separate.
Even with pastries?
Yep. So we have a 3-week swap where we do swap for 3 weeks. But in general, if you're in pastry, you stay in pastry. And if you're in culinary, then you stay in culinary because that's what you want to master. So we had to do we had different courses, bread or chocolate and like confection. So it was all different like semesters that we had to do. But then there was also your basics and like general business and stuff like that. So I feel like it's really important and it helped me a lot. So
Very interesting. So, did you master pastry more than culinary, or was it the opposite way?
in Pakistan, I feel like I did culinary better because
Mhm.
at that point I was like, maybe I want to open up a restaurant. But then eventually I was like, no, I feel like my calling is in pastry. And then here I definitely did more pastry than culinary. But there's this saying in the industry, like, if you can do pastry, you can definitely do culinary. But culinary people struggle in pastry because it's just two very different fields, I guess. So if you're used to following recipes, we can go over and follow recipes.
What about you, Ali? Where did you go to college, and what did you do?
So I went to Prairie View A&M. Go
My
Panthers.
alma mater as well.
Yep. Electrical engineering. Grew up nowhere near food, to be honest. Just loved eating food. But then met my wife, Maham, and everything really changed.
So, did you meet him while she was in CIA, or
Oh no,
was
we
it
actually
after?
met in Pakistan.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I even went to SCAFA after we met. So
Interesting.
he already knew and he was a huge supporter. Like he was one of those people who I sent like a picture of my cake once and he posted on Reddit going like, "Oh, look at this cake that someone I know made. Please tell me how it is."
What was like the
Yeah.
very first cake you made?
Oh, the very first cake. It was a disaster.
Oh,
Cakes are like okay. When I started saying I wanted to become a chef, I would always tell myself I would be a cake decorator.
mhm.
And then along the way, I realized like it's not really my calling because it's so hard and I'm not as patient with cake. Even the bread is probably takes more patience, but I would always rush it or like try icing it when it was hot or like just it's not my thing. So the first cake I made definitely did not survive. It like slid and was not it.
So, what made you pick going to the CIA in San Antonio over another place like Dubai, Saudi, England, Australia?
Honestly, we just got married and he was working in San Antonio.
Oh,
So I don't know.
okay.
It all like kind of fell into place where he was already working in San Antonio, and I
Uh-huh.
had told him before, like, "Hey, CI is like the top culinary institute in the world. I want to go there."
Right.
It was New York, California, or San Antonio, Texas, and luckily he got a job there. So when I moved, I was like, "All right, perfect. We're just gonna go here."
Did you sell desserts while you were in San Antonio?
I tried, but not really, because school was very demanding, and
Mhm.
then I just never like really got the time to start there.
There's a few ideas that she tried out before we reached Shakkar. Um, Funny enough, she is not like a gym head or anything like that, but initially she tried doing nutritional bars.
Yep, in San Antonio, it did
Yeah,
not. It did not
it had too
go
much
well.
chocolate, and she tried to promote it using like a gym instructor, and she asked for like the nutritional facts, and she
Yeah.
said it has healthy stuff in it. There's a lot of chocolate as
Well,
well.
he was like, I don't think this is gonna work.
I
And I
don't
was like,
think
but it
that's
doesn't taste good till I put like this in there. And it's like, okay, maybe that's not your calling. You're not.
Interesting. So you get married, you in the CIA,
Mhm.
and when did you move to Houston?
So we moved 2019.
2019.
So we moved here because the plant that he was working in shut down. And then so we moved here. And then after that, COVID hit. So we were just like, all right, we're just gonna like we moved here and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do my last semester. And then COVID hit and the school shut down and they were like, oh, no more in-person classes. So one of my semesters is externship. So you have to go out and work for a semester. And I got my externship at Diane's Milk and Cookies. So I started working there. And when I started working there, my externship ended and they were just like, hey, you want to start working for us full time? And I started working with them full time. So I just never went back after that. I just started working and understanding more of the industry.
What was it like working at Tiny's? Because I and many of my followers, we love their cookies. I mean, I think before Subway, they are the best cookies in all of Houston.
Oh, agreed. We would drive from San Antonio and get their cookies and then go back because we're like, this is so good. Like,
Wow. 3 hours from San Antonio to Houston for a cookie.
Oh yeah, I mean their cookies are great. We would take their frozen. They have those frozen cookie doughs, or they used to that
Ah,
we would take back home and just make it there.
interesting.
So for me personally, it was an amazing experience because the chef that I worked under, Chef Christina, like she really allowed me to grow. So I within like a span of 6 months, I went from an intern to a bread lead. Initially had never thought I was gonna go into bread, but they had an employee that left, and they were like, "Oh, extern, you start doing bread," and then I just could never leave.
Okay, so answer this if you're willing to.
Mhm.
What was the secret to Tiny's cookings being so amazing?
Love.
That's the best way to put it.
I can't say what it is, but it's definitely like it has a lot of butter in it. So anything with a lot of butter, sugar, a lot of chocolate chips, like it will make your cookie taste great anyways.
I think also
And
like,
also they like hand scoop it. Like
yeah,
they're really passionate about their cookies. Like till this day, they will only hand scoop their cookies because they refuse to get machines and stuff like that. So
and they do produce and sell enough where it would justify to actually get machinery, but their owner,
Baron.
Baron,
Yeah.
is very much about handmade product. So they literally have employees that are referred to as cookie scoopers.
Yeah.
That is very relatable because, I've been to a lot of dessert places and cookie shops, and a lot of it I see it prepackaged, right?
Yep.
So that,
They definitely make it from scratch, like their own recipe and everything.
that's probably why it's so good.
Can't
S-
argue with that.
So when did the idea of Shakkar start?
So after Diney's, I started working at Magnol, which is a huge, like, it's really popular French bakery in Houston. And
You might want to go back further to San Antonio when you did croissants for the first time from CIA.
oh yeah, it was really sad. I was in school and I was like, we hadn't even like learned how to do croissants. And I was going through my syllabus and I was like, bi-color croissants, like 2 colors, I can do it. And I made the most hideous looking croissants on this planet. But then after that, I was like, well, this is not my thing. I'm not going to do it. But back to Tiny's. At Tiny's, like after I left, I felt like I had like pretty much achieved what I wanted to. And I was looking for my next, like I wanted to learn how to do more bread. So I started looking at Magnol, where Chef Otto and Chef Matt are, and I went in and I was like, hey, could I like do you guys have any openings? And then I had an interview. I told them like, hey, I already have this business called the Awkward Giraffe, which was what became Shakkar later, but I do want to learn more. And that's when Chef Matt kind of like took me under his wing, and he till this day is my mentor. And I will reach out to him and be like, hey, chef, like he's in France now. He's back there. He's working on a bakery over there, and I'll be like, hey, like I need help. But he's definitely the one who really pushed me to do it. And then whenever you're working for someone, there is a limit to how much you can create.
Right.
And that was my biggest frustration when I was working. And I wanted to be like, I wanted to create for myself. And that is why Shakkar started, because I just wanted to do what I wanted to do.
So you were the pastry chef at Bagnol,
Oh
or?
no, I just worked in their bread department. So I would laminate and do croissants and do their bread on that side. So
Oh, interesting.
so the head was Chef Matt.
Interesting. So over there, did they use? Was it like the same as you got ingredients as you guys used, or did they use something
It's
differently?
similar, but then they had gelatin, which they tried getting beef gelatin, but they didn't always have. For their desserts, they will let you know even if you go in. Like
Uh huh.
they tried getting halal gelatin at one point, but they didn't really have halal gelatin, so they would just get whatever because they don't cater to halal community per se.
Right.
But their bread overall, there was nothing that would be of concern.
Yeah.
So it is similar, but not exact.
Hmm. So what would the gelatin be in?
They're entremets.
Oh,
So a
what
lot
is?
of like desserts that you see in pastry cases, all the glazes that they have on top all have gelatin in them because there's no
Oh,
way to set it without gelatin.
interesting.
So which is one of the biggest things that I learned when I moved here. Because in Pakistan, like I would just eat whatever, and
Right.
here when I moved here, and I was like, oh, I can't have that. A lot of desserts are soaked in alcohol or have gelatin in
True.
them, and then that's one of the reasons why I was like, all right, no, we gotta like open up a bakery that caters to us. We need these desserts in our lives.
So, what are some examples of gelatins that have? I mean, what are some examples of the French desserts that have the gelatin so that I or anyone listening, when we go to a French bakery, will know what to watch out for?
For sure, like any entremet that you see, which is any layered dessert,
Such as?
So anything with mousse in it, anything
Uh-huh.
with the jelly in it, and
Uh-huh.
even anything with a curd in it will have gelatin in it more than likely.
Uh-huh.
So I sometimes I can't say like a whole dessert would have it, but they always have elements in different desserts that contain gelatin because there's no way to set it without really having gelatin in it. So that is definitely one of the biggest things. I mean, anything with marshmallow fluff or like marshmallow is already something on there.
Yeah.
And then also a lot of cakes and also croissants are soaked. So they do have like rum or alcohol in them. For example, almond croissant, a lot of people have almond croissants, but almond croissants are notorious for having alcohol. So it's like,
Wow, I did not know that.
yep,
But what about like the regular butter croissant and the pan au chocolat?
they don't. They don't.
Oh.
You would really have to be like going overboard trying to get something in it. So it's not really, they don't have it. Like that's the almond croissant only because of the almond base that they put in the center.
Hmm.
But everything else is, croissants is fairly easy. And even bread, honestly, I haven't seen any alcohol or gelatin or anything like
Right.
that in it.
So you're working at the cafe and then COVID hits. At what point did you decide that okay, I'm gonna implement Shakkar going forward?
Honestly,
You want to tell it from my perspective?
yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Honestly,
So-
like, you go ahead.
So, Maham for like almost like over 3 weeks. It was a 3 week span. Tiny's milk and cookies during that time period, and she's coming home every day, frustrated. She's not the type of person to work overtime just to make more money or anything like that. She's working overtime because she's trying to get one of her products on the menu, or she doesn't like the way something is being made and being presented at Tiny's Milk and Cookies. So one day she stays later and has made multiple different doughs, different styles of doughs, multiple different styles of danishes, and takes all of them and leaves it at the owner of Milk and Cookies' desk at night because he's going to come in the morning and try it. So, and then she has like notes written next to it, everything. She put so much effort into that
Definitely.
to get a better product put out. Just to emphasize, it's not that Tiny's Milk and Cookies makes a bad product. They make a country style product that's the vision of the owner.
Right.
But Mom at the time had a very French, very strict, like a certain style that she liked. She was pushing for that.
Hmm.
Next day, she just kind of got a pat on the back. They didn't go with it. And at that point, she was very much like, this is not where I want to be. I want to do something myself.
Hmm.
But
Then I started at Magno.
yeah,
That was like my step forward. And then by the end of it, we were working, me and Carrie, you've met Carrie, she's our assistant pastry chef.
Hmm.
So we worked at Diney's together. Then we worked at Magnol together.
Hmm.
So we were both working like 16-hour days and just tired at work. And I would come home and I would complain to Ali. And this one day, Ali was just like, all right, either you're going to do something about this or you're going to not complain about this. And then on that day, I was like, all right, like we got to do something. Because at that point, awkward giraffe was a thing, but I wasn't entirely fond of it. And I was sitting down with my mom and we were all on like talking to each other. And we all were throwing around names because I was like, it has to be a Desi name. Because if the product isn't Desi, the name has to represent my background. Like I can't just pretend like I am not who I am. And then we were throwing random names, and then Shakkar came up, and then everyone was like, Shakkar sounds really good. And then my brother actually designed the logo for it. And then my sister worked with me, and we set up our website and everything. And then I quit my job, and I started doing this. That's when I started at home.
So, what was the reaction like when news came out that you were doing fresh croissants from home?
Honestly, it was a lot more, people were a lot more open to it than I thought. Because I would always tell him, like, hey, who's going to buy croissants from, like, a house? And he was like, do it. Like, try it out. But the response that we got was pretty insane. Like, at one point, I would be running out of my house, like, every 5 minutes trying to, like, give boxes to customers. I had customers who I would just sit on my doorstep and, like, talk to because they would just stick around and, like, talk. So it was, that was probably, like, prime Shakkar for me because now it's bigger. But at that point, like, I still miss those moments of, like, knowing my customers or doing it out of home, and it was definitely something.
Or-
Yeah,
or-
I remember, driving out from Cyprus to the East End,
Yes.
just waiting for your food because I had it and then I gave some to my family and they absolutely loved it.
Well, thank you. Actually, like one of my friends in San Antonio, she had told me about you because I was like, oh, we're moving to Houston. And she's like, oh, you got to follow him. He has all the best recommendations on there. So when you reached out to me and we're like, oh, I want to get like some pastries. And I immediately sent a screenshot to Ali. I was like, I've made it. Look, look at what's going to happen.
So I'm assuming the croissants were inspiration from your time at Magnol.
They actually had started it before. So at
Oh.
Diny's, I would stay after my shift, and they were kind enough to let me use their kitchen. So I would do my production there, and we would do farmers markets under the Aqua Giraffe.
Hmm.
So when I started Magnol, I had already had a business going, and then at Magnol, decided to pivot to it being Shakkar and not the Aqua Giraffe.
Hmm.
And then I decided to quit and full on go on it. So
Yeah, because I remember your Instagram. It looked really good.
thank you.
And one thing I want to know about your croissants is what was the inspiration for the croissant cubes?
Honestly, I was just trying to do something different. Like I just wanted to keep creating, and then I was like, a cube looks so much more different. And then I ordered some cube molds, and I started making them at home. And I think I posted my first video of it, and everyone was like, "What's that?" And then it started getting attention, and I was like, "All right, this is a move." Because at that point, I had also looked at croissant cereal, but I decided to go with the cube first, and it took off. And people like Biscoff. Like Biscoff, I did not realize how much people like Biscoff because the
Yeah,
first one was Biscoff and then I had a Nutella one.
yeah.
But Biscoff, like just everyone loved it. Like even till this day, we have people like, "Do you have the Biscoff cube?"
Really?
Hmm. People just associate us with being the Biscoff cube. Like
Was it easy to keep up the demand with everything being handmade?
at home, no. But also when
Or
we moved out, like he was at one point he was working with me. Even now he works with me. Like it kept getting bigger and bigger, and then we just eventually I could no longer do it from my house because I did not have the space for it, and
our
I
house was a bakery. It
yeah, it was
wasn't a
like
house.
majority just bakery, and then I
Yeah.
was like, all right, I need to separate our house and work. Like I can't always be working.
There was a point where, due to COVID, our furniture, we had just moved in to our house on East End, and we couldn't get furniture in on time. So I had a ping pong table upstairs and then the kitchen. So it was literally bakery, ping pong table.
That's all we did.
Wow. And I have to say, I really commended the fact that you committed to making everything by hand because even myself, when I go out, it's pretty easy to know the difference between something that's
Yes.
store bought or pre made versus something that's fresh and made from scratch and everything.
Yes, this is one of the things that I refuse to give up on because
Yeah.
people don't realize how much effort goes into it, but the difference in product is so obvious. Like if you actually like understand it, it is 100 times better just because you put the effort and love into making it. When I started, I would actually use a hand crank sheeter. So I got it from Ukraine, and I would just use my like a hand crank sheeter to roll out croissants.
Wow. That's a
Yep.
lot of, that was a lot, must have been a lot of work.
It was at one point one of my arms was like stronger than the other one because I would just use.
I tried to use it. I couldn't do it. She had a rhythm going.
But I mean, it was worth it. I did enjoy that one. So
So with the demand going high, uh, that's when you started reaching out to different coffee shops to where you can do your product. And I remember that the one coffee shop that let you was Canary.
yes.
Did you apply for any others, or did you have one that you really wanted to do?
Honestly, at that point, we were looking at other places, but I hadn't really thought about coffee shops because I didn't realize how big the coffee and croissant culture in Houston was in that moment.
Hmm.
So, because I always came from like a bakery background, not a coffee shop background, so I never realized that. But
We were renting kitchens before that.
yeah, we were renting like kitchens for hours, hourly kitchens for at that point, and then one of the owners for Canary, she is also South Asian.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that.
She reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, I've been seeing your product. Like, do you want to come in?" And then I went in and she talked to me and we talked to each other, and they were like, all right, how about you start making these in-house for us and we can be your storefront. And that's how it started. So I'm like, till this day, so grateful that they gave me the opportunity to be there.
And well, did you get a lot of traffic at Canary?
We did, because it was also the first location was at Lindale, so it was a bit of a hit and miss because we were trying to figure out the clientele in that area. But definitely a lot of DC people. The first day we had a pop up, we did so great. They were just like, "All right,
There was
stay
a
here,"
line. There was
there
a
was a
line
line
at the door.
because they were like, "All right, how about you do a pop up and see how it goes, and then you can decide if you want to stay here long term." And the first day it was amazing, and then we just stayed there.
Was it like a mixed group of people, or did like mostly white,
I
Desi?
think we've always attracted more of a mixed crowd because
That's good.
it's a product that can appeal to everyone.
Right.
So it was definitely a lot more of a mixed crowd.
So another thing I remember is the suhoor that you guys did.
Yes.
So the owner let you do the suhoor,
Oh
and
yes. They we had me and actually it was Ali's idea, and Ali asked them like, hey, what if we do this, because there's so many people doing suhoors this Ramadan, like how about we do it too? And they were very open. They had no problem. They're like, yeah, sure, like do it. We'll open up our coffee bar and you can do all the stuff that you want to do. That's when I partnered with Chef Javier. He is Carrie's husband,
Mhm.
and also a really close friend. And then we both sat down and we're like, all right, let's do this. And then we both partnered and did that event.
And the one thing I remember very clearly was the karai croissant.
Yes.
Was whose idea was it? Yours or Ali's?
I think
It was actually Chef Javier's.
Javier's, yeah.
Interesting.
So we go out and eat a lot of, like, he makes really good Mexican food. He made Mexican food for our baby Zakika.
Hmm.
And whenever we have something, like, we always take it over. We take him to Pakistani restaurants, and he really liked karai. And he was like, all right, how about we put this in a croissant? And then initially I was like, I don't know if that's gonna go. And then it's like, okay, let's try it. And we tried it, and it was so great that I was like, okay, this has to, like, we have to do this. And then even now, like, I think the last Halal Fest, not this one, the one that we went to before, we had so many people come up to us and be like, hey, do you guys have the karai croissant? And I was like, I did not realize it was that big of a thing, but not this time.
So you're at Canary Coffee, and then what made you decide that you had to change locations again?
I we just wanted to be like more, so that area that we were in was already like not, I don't think it was the best fit for us.
Hmm.
So we're trying to look for more options, and they had another location in Montrose. So it was just a regular conversation of like, hey, what if we try out the Montrose location, because I feel like there's more of a neighborhood that wanted to be there.
Hmm.
So, and they were open to. They were already about to give up the location in Lindale, and they just wanted to concentrate on Montrose. So with their move, we kind of like also moved into it. So this was just a together, like, hey, let's leave this and move.
And how long were you guys in Montrose?
A little shy of a year.
Oh, okay.
So before we hit our year, we had already moved to the post.
How did that happen? I'm very interested to hear.
Funny enough, they actually reached out.
Really?
I got a DM from the post one day, and they were like, hey, so we're interested in having y'all at the post. And then I was like, is this a scam? Like, are they just joking? And no, but they reached out. We had conversations. They showed at the place. And then after, I think it took us like 3 months.
Yeah, because initially we didn't know if we wanted to go.
Yeah,
there
I wasn't
anyway.
sure if that was the place for us, if we are going to get people there. But 3 months later, we actually moved in.
Like, did the person or the owner
Yeah.
of Post ever come and try your croissants before?
Yes, so actually their son was the one who pushed for us, and they wanted us to be there.
Oh, nice. So that is really cool. like like a lot of times these cool things happen because the owner of a big place reaches out. Like, for example, they were Q's Deli at the Rockets night, and because the owner Ali is good friends with one of the guys who works for the Rockets, he was able to get the food. And he was telling me that people loved the fact that there was something halal there.
Yes, which
So-
is so insane that it got to that level, right? And it's also like, I'm a firm believer of like, whatever relationships you make along the way, you never know when they will come in handy, right? Like, or
Right.
where someone might think of you and be like, hey, I know this one person who does this. And it happens so often that we don't think about it, or we'll just brush off things but not realize how important those things can be. This was one of those, like, not that I've ever met him, but I guess he saw us at somewhere at some point, and it just turned out to us being at the post.
And
So go ahead.
and from an outside perspective, like mom's busy, like she's focused on her like business. There's so many people that we've met that from an outside perspective I thought we would never meet or even be introduced to, and a lot of people that we've met and where they've ended up. We've met a championship level barista. What's his name?
Steven?
Steven learned a lot about coffee through him, to the point where we had coffee that had no sweetener that tasted very sweet. We worked with a young chef from Salvador,
Yes.
who now works at Alina
Yes.
in Chicago, which is a Michelin star restaurant.
Oh,
Wow.
Marcelo.
Marcelo,
Yeah.
and then there's we've there was a point where Musafir, when they first opened up, we went there ourselves. We met the
Chef
Maham,
Mayank, yeah.
yeah, Chef Mayank. There's just so many people. Also, there's like some people that we've met in the industry that are not so savory. Well, that's for another day. But like, it's just insane when you start doing these things and you follow your passion, like Maham did, and you just meet people, and
I think the
just
doors just
learn.
keep opening.
The
like,
doors
it's-
just keep opening. You just have to walk through them.
Like, did you go to Musafa or did he come to your?
He actually did come over when we were at Lindale at
Ah.
Canary. So I did meet him, and he had the croissants with us, and he's a really nice person. So
Yeah.
super nice. But that was like, I never would have thought that we would ever meet the chef, or he would ever come over and try our croissants, or like in so many different cases where there's people who try it. I'm like, you tried our croissant? That's insane. Because like, to me, it's still like I'm in my head, I'm still that baker at home, like making croissants, that it's so hard to be like, oh, people know this product.
So now you are open at Post. What were the first few days like after you opened at Post?
It was crazy because I have never opened up a location ever before, not even as a job. So it was a huge learning experience because I had to look up everything that needed to be done, everything that we had to do.
We were also expecting a baby.
Yeah, I was 7 months pregnant.
Oh wow.
So when we opened up, so we were like already prepping for our baby, but also prepping for the location. It was a huge learning curve because when you're opening yourself up to public, you get the good and the bad.
Right.
So it was a very scary situation, but it was also definitely an exciting situation.
So I know that you guys got your popular croissants to the Post. What went into serving other stuff like the quiche and the tarts and the cookies and other stuff?
I think I've always said that I wanted to be a standalone croissantery with a lot of croissants and
Yeah.
just croissants. But since we do open up till 10 at night, I feel like croissants, everything has a time to be eaten. Like, I wouldn't go and eat a croissant at 10 p.m. at night.
Right.
So there was a door opened for other things. So that's why we decided, like, hey, let's add more things these are generally things that I just enjoy eating. That's why, like, sometimes the menu makes no sense. So he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I just enjoy making these things and they're on the menu. But that's one of the reasons we went into desserts more.
And that question brings me to something I've always wanted to know. What went into the idea of making the giant croissant?
Honestly, it was a crazy idea. Like, we were at Canary Montrose one day,
Uh-huh.
and I was just sitting up front. And that day I was doing paperwork because I was like, I can't go back there. I have to sort out paperwork. And I was sitting up front doing paperwork, and then I don't know what happened. And I was like, what if I made a giant croissant, like a size and a bigger size? And then I went back there and I was like, hey, Carrie, do we have an extra croissant book? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, we're going to try making a giant croissant. And she looked at my face like, what are you going to do? And I was like, we're just going to try something. And she was on board. So we rolled it down, and then we started like doing dimensions, and we rolled it out. We proofed it and baked it. And I just took pictures of it and videos of it, and I posted it, and then everyone loved it. And then we started getting orders. KPRC too reached out and they were like, "Hey,
Wow.
we need to do a segment on these croissants." And like it definitely got so much more attention than I was thinking. And then till this day, like we're still making giant croissants. Like people still want them for their birthdays. The most common question we get asked at Shakkar, we have a giant croissant sitting up front on the counter for display. We get this asked like 20 times a day. Is that real? And we're just like, yes, it's real. And they're just like, can I touch it? And we're like, sure. Like, but I don't know. It wasn't really a very thought out thing. It was just I have an idea. Let's do it.
Interesting that KPRC reached out. Like, did you interview on the TV or?
Yes. So they actually came over and they documented the whole thing and interviewed me. And then I also went over. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah. So, on average, how many orders of the giant croissant do you get?
So currently we're doing close to 4 to 5 a week.
Oh,
Only because
wow.
we are a little capped out. Like we want to do more, but it takes a lot more effort and time to do one.
Right.
So that's where we are right now. But I'm pretty sure if we tried taking more and our ordering system was better, we would definitely be doing.
Would you
much more.
ever do any of those food challenges where if a person eats a whole croissant, they'll get like a prize or a free
I have
t-shirt?
really thought about that. Like I'm not opposed to it. I just need to organize one. Like I do want to do it. That would be really cool. Maybe a giant chocolate or an almond would be really cool too.
Even butter?
A butter, yeah. Whoever eats it gets a prize. That would be amazing. Maybe that'll be my next thing.
Lifetime supply of
Croissants.
croissants.
So when you joined Post, I noticed that you started having savory things. Like I remember having the quiche.
Yes.
Why did you get the quiche and not some other stuff?
We had savory croissants too, but I guess quiche is like one of those things that I had in Pakistan. Like bakeries for some reason have
Right.
quiche, right?
Right.
So I just felt like I needed to have quiche because also where else are you gonna go get halal quiche from?
Right.
So it was one of those things like, hey, I can't eat it anywhere else, so let's make it. Even Ali was so opposed to like the quiche because he would be like, because he didn't grow up eating quiche here, and he's like, who eats quiche? And I'm like, me. So I started making it, and it actually did really good. But since we're in a food hall, doing savory has been a little challenging because there's so many food options around us, also so many halal food options around us.
Right.
So for us, like we're mostly sticking to desserts right now, but definitely, hopefully, inshallah, if we have a standalone location, there's going to be a lot more savory options.
What was the Muslim reaction to, you guys opening at Post? I'm sure that with a lot of non-Muslims, it was very popular and it took off. But I'm curious, what was the reaction like with the Muslims at Post?
It was good. It was good, but we also had a lot of complaint about like why'd you open up so far away. So that was probably like the only
Yeah.
complaint we got. But
You got that more than somebody asking you if it's really halal?
yeah, I mean, no, we
No,
still
we
get
still
people. We
get-
still get people who ask us. We also get people who get upset with us because they're like, "Why do you not have Pakistani desserts if you're a
Oh
Pakistani
my
person?"
God.
So we have those, but in general, I feel like people who really enjoy our pastries, they, alhamdulillah, like they've always made the drive and come over, and they always say hi, and we have like regulars who will always do it. So I think it was pretty exciting because I did want to represent the Pakistani or Desi community. It's one of the reasons why we have a Shakkar in Urdu on one side.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, we have to represent ourselves. Like people use their own language. Why should we be scared of putting our stuff on there?
That too in Urdu writing as
Yes.
well.
So one side only says it in Urdu. We didn't even write English on that side. The other side says it in English, and I'm like, this is how it is. Like this is my language.
So, what explanation would you give to them that, hey, we don't do desi desserts? Because honestly, I just don't understand why, you go to a place that obviously has croissants, but then you have people who'll get mad about it not having desi food, or they'll want desi food as well.
So my thing is like this is one of my passion projects. Since I am passionate about these desserts is why I make them. The
Mhm.
day I become super passionate about Pakistani desserts or I want to open up a Pakistani concept, it will be there. Shakkar is just not the place for it. In my mind, it has never been the place for it. So
Right.
I don't think in this time of my life I would want to go down that route. And there's also a lot of other people doing amazing at doing Pakistani desserts.
Right.
That is just not my forte.
Right.
So nothing against them. Everyone does their own thing. I just picked my own little thing of what I want to do.
Yeah. So, what are your top three selling products, like croissants?
The giant croissant.
Is number one?
We get asked the most about it, and we also like obviously it's always the most in demand. The number one seller would be the creme brulee croissant,
Ah,
which everyone like loves. Almond has always been a really strong one. And then what would be a third one? We
Um,
fluctuate between a lot of like seasonals.
yeah. So the butter croissant as well.
The butter croissant, yeah. The
There's
butter and
always
chocolate, like our top sellers are always the croissants. Like even if we have a whole pastry
yeah.
section, the croissants always win. And then whatever seasonals we have, they always become the
But
top
the
seller.
creme
And, like,
brulee croissant has been a top seller ever since.
it's been a year and it's
Still a
stayed
top
like
seller.
it's maintained its place. And the thing is like we've never promoted it. No one's ever talked about it, but somehow people just always buy it.
wow. What about your top three non-croissant products?
Tiramisu for sure.
Yeah,
After that, the red velvet cookie and our brownie.
nice. So, my question is tiramisu, does it typically have alcohol?
Yes.
Ah,
It traditionally does have alcohol in it, and that's one of the reasons why I was like, we have to have it. Like, it tastes so good. So we do no alcohol, no nothing. We
yeah,
soak it in coffee, and that's it.
yeah.
But I think it's pretty good. I really like it.
Do you have any plans to open in other locations?
Um, I don't think Shakker's gonna have multiple locations, but I do want to have a standalone Shakkar location. I
Mhm.
want Shakkar to be one of those places that is like a destination spot where people drive and they're like, all right, if we're in Texas or we're in Houston, we have to go try this bakery.
Yeah,
That's where I want to be. I don't know if I want to necessarily have multiple locations because I'm a little bit of a control freak. So I don't know if I would be able to handle that. But I definitely, hopefully, inshallah, want to get to that point. But we are taking our time. Like this year has been a lot with the opening, with our baby and everything. So
yeah,
we're taking our time right now.
And Maham's very devoted to quality. The amount, like from being the finance guy of this bakery, I will say I've tried to convince her to make it a little bit more profitable. But to be honest, the moment we try even doing that, it's like taking the soul out of the product. So
It's a balancing act at this point.
you'll always be getting quality
Do you
as much
have
as I fight
any
against it.
do you have any interesting customer stories?
Um, are there any like we have like our usual customer, like there's always customers that say stuff, right? I have some really good customer stories.
Sure.
I have this one customer, her name is Millie. I believe she's 6 or 7 years old. And her mom will message me on Instagram and be like, hey, Millie just really wants sausage and cheese croissants. Can you please make some for her? And then every once a month or so, and then we make it for her. And then she comes over all dressed up in like her Pakistani clothes.
Aw,
And she brought us like paintings or drawings that she made. And she sits down, has her croissant in the morning. So that like whenever she's over, like it makes my day where I'm like, oh, all right, that's why I do it. Like I want to see, or I want people to little girls to see us and be like, oh, we can be chefs. We can work in the food industry. We don't always have to go down a different route. So
yeah,
that's the goal.
yeah.
There's some iconic Shucker at home customers as well.
Oh yeah, we have like little kids who send me like their moms will send me pictures of their kids like holding chakra boxes and stuff, and they're like,
Aw.
oh, they keep them in their bedroom, and like there's I don't know, it warms my heart. So
It warmed my heart too. So one more question before we go. So you know Aga's, right? They're
yes,
so well loved in the Houston community, and it's the one place that I've seen so many restaurant owners dine at because they love their food. So my question to both of you guys is, what are your top three restaurants that are not named Aga's? Top three halal restaurants.
my first would be Hotline Burger. I've definitely been there twice already in a week. Al Javi.
The skewers,
The
right?
skewers are so good, or even like their kebab roll is so good. My third one. Do you want to say your third one?
Mm, I'm a little biased. I really like sandwiches, so Q's Deli. But
Yeah. My sister actually, she's here from Pakistan, and last year she was here. She loved Mad Dogs, and this time she came back and she was like, "Hughes Deli wins."
What's your favorite sandwich from Q's?
The Q stack.
Yeah.
He likes the Reuben a lot.
I like the Q's best actually. I go back and forth, but those two, Reuben or Q's best.
They're all pretty good, so I can't complain.
What about you? Do you have any favorites?
Mm,
It's like my mom's biryani.
a shout out to my mom's tomato chutney.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I still remember that from when you had it at the Sehri.
Yes.
I still remember it.
That was his mom's contribution to it.
But do you have any favorite restaurants?
As far as like favorite restaurants go, lately I've been on a Afghani food kick. So like Saffron Kebab House or like Afghan Village.
Mhm.
Afghan Village owner has a great story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've read about it,
Yeah.
and I actually would love to one day have him on this podcast so that he can tell to my audience too.
That would be amazing.
And I will say that it's actually my favorite Afghan restaurant in town.
It is really good.
Yeah.
We just last night had Afghani food and it was so good.
All right, Maham and Ali, thank you guys so much for coming. It was a great interview.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
us.
having us.
And thank you guys for listening. I hope you take care and have a happy holiday. Assalamu alaikum.